All right, and we are live. Woo! So everyone, I'm super excited. We have Rob here. I'm so excited about the topic today. We'll go a little bit into that in a bit. As always, we're going to start with our intros. So if you're new to my channel, my name's Jen from Move with Jen. I do YouTube. I do these kind of live streams. I've been doing them for a few months now, where I have some amazing content creators come and join me, where we talk about interesting topics, normally around fitness, something like that. I'm also on Instagram, and more recently, I started teaching online yoga classes as well. So if you're new here, I'm so happy you're here, and thanks for being here. And I'll throw it over to Rob so he can introduce himself as well.
Yeah, thank you, Jen. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you everybody who's tuning in here. So my name is Rob Carney. I'm a holistic lifestyle coach, and basically for me, it's been about the past 10 years of trying to figure out this whole thing of health and personal development, where I had a pretty bad concussion, which really kind of led me to reevaluate things. I was 17 years old. I'm 27 now. So basically I was an athlete in high school, a state swimmer, and then had to kind of reevaluate my life when all of a sudden I had to go from moving a lot to then not being able to do anything for about 5 months. So that led me into yoga, led to meditation, psychology, neuroscience, just went down this rabbit hole of holistic health and healing. And so what I am here today is to share basically the past decade of my life of trying to figure out health and some of the things that I found to be work for me and some other people.
Awesome. Well, Rob, I'm so excited you're here. And also just where, if people are looking to find you, what's the best way to get a hold of you? What channels are you on?
Yeah, so I also have my own YouTube channel. It's Whole Health Connections, WHOLE Health Connections with an S, and that's also on Instagram. Then I have a Facebook as well, but I'd say Instagram is probably the best place. YouTube, if you do email, you can email me. You're probably one of the few people that does email, so you can do wholehealthconnections@gmail.com. More than happy to chat with anybody, answer any questions, and just here to share what I can.
Awesome. Well, Rob, I'm super excited. Also, Paul, welcome. Happy Friday. I'm really glad that you're on. And Adrian and Nico, you guys are the best. Thanks so much for being here. All right, so let's dive right in. So talking about optimizing your health. So I'll shoot it over to you, talk a little bit about the foundations, and then we can deep dive into them.
Yeah, so over the course of my studies, I studied with a great holistic health practitioner by the name of Paul Chek. And he's been for almost 4 decades working with some of the best athletes and just people in the world. He worked with the Chicago Bulls, the Chicago Blackhawks. He was the boxing coach for the Army for quite some time. So he's been in many different areas of life, and basically he specialized in medical failure. So whenever someone would go to all these specialist doctors and they couldn't figure anything out, eventually they would come to him, and it was his job to kind of cure some of these very difficult conditions that people had. So what he broke this down into is 6 foundation principles, and I add my own little overarching theme to them. So these 6 are moving, thinking, breathing, nutrition, hydration, and sleep. So when you look at moving, thinking, breathing, those are more of yang principles. If you're into Chinese medicine, nutrition, hydration, sleep, more of the yin principles. And overarching all 6 of those, I add stress to that, because if we are stressed out, which most of us are in this digital go age, stress is a big challenge. So those are the 6 principles plus a little bonus that I'm working with.
That's awesome. Well, I'm so excited to dive into these, especially as you're talking about the yin and the yang. For those who do yoga with me, you know that I'm all about that. And Adrian, congrats on the new baby. I'm so glad that you're here. I can't believe 7 days old. That's amazing. I can only imagine how tiny he or she is. I want to hear more about the baby, so make sure you comment, Adrian. We want to hear like name and gender and all of that good stuff. And I see Jessica's on here too. So, hey, Jessica, that's awesome. She's saying that she's pretty stressed out this week. So I think that they can relate. And so for everybody who maybe just joined in as well, as always, please, we love seeing comments coming in. So we really want to engage with you. We want to keep this as an open dialogue as well. We're going to leave some time at the end. I know we always go over on these, so Rob and I are going to try really hard to kind of keep it contained. And also we are going to open it up for questions. But if you do have questions as Rob's kind of going into stuff, feel free to post them in the chat. If it makes sense for us to deep dive in them now, we'll try to do that. And otherwise we'll address them later. And I got my pen and hopefully I'll be good about writing them down. So, but keep the comments going, and really excited for everyone who's here. I see here, we've got Z Eduardo, good night. Greetings from BR. Is BR Brazil, I'm thinking?
Yep.
All right. Amazing. All right. So Rob, so which, where do you think the best place is to start?
Yeah, so I like to start with the Yang principles, as many of us live in this go, go, go Yang world. So I think that the Yang principles are a little bit more easy for most of us to relate to. So moving, thinking, and breathing. So let's start with moving. So moving, life is consistently moving. If life wasn't moving, there would be no life. You think we're orbiting around the sun, the galaxies are moving. Everything is moving. Our bodies are moving. Blood is moving in our bodies. Our cells are moving. So life is a form of movement. So the way that I look at it is the more movement we can incorporate, the proper movement, the more healthy we'll be. And so movement, each of these principles can be broken down into yin and yang pieces. So moving, the yang side of that is going to be exercise. The yin side could be a yin yoga, could be doing Tai Chi, could be walking. Walking could be either or depending on your tempo. So when we're looking at moving, I like to look at all these principles as, this is my medicine. So what type of movement medicine do I need? Do I need more yang movement medicine, or do I need more yin movement medicine? So for instance, if you're someone that's going to the gym a lot, you probably have plenty of yang movement. So you probably need some more yin movement. You want to find that homeostasis, find that balance of the two. And if you're someone who's working a desk job, sitting in a chair all day, you probably need a little bit of both, because you're probably not moving at all. And that's going to help, get you to that balanced state. So when it comes to moving, I think a lot of us associate every type of movement with exercise. So what I really want to emphasize with this point is that moving is not just exercise. And for people that are in a stressed out state, sometimes exercise can actually be counterproductive, because you're already in the sympathetically dominant mode that we may actually need to not exercise, which is a weird concept. A lot of people, when I suggest that for very stressed out people, they're like, what do you mean don't exercise? I want you to keep moving, but not necessarily exercise. That could be walking, Tai Chi, yoga, a lot of these type of things. So for someone who needs more yang movement, what I say is, it doesn't have to be traditionally going to the gym. I think that's a big thing. Oh, I have to go lift weights, do all these angular positions, and that's great. Lifting weights, I love lifting weights. But for me, rock climbing, surfing, swimming, I love the steel mace is one of my favorite toys. So when it comes to movements, the best movement is the one that you're going to consistently do. People can talk about the best exercise program, the best all this, but at the end of the day, it comes down to what are you going to do consistently? And that's where, for me, it has to be fun. You have to enjoy it. So don't think that you have to do a certain program. You have to deadlift on Tuesdays and squat on Wednesdays or whatever this program is. All those things are great, but if you don't enjoy it, it's not going to be sustainable. So that's my little philosophy on movement. And do you want me to dive right into the other two on the yang side, or do you want?
Let's talk about the movement for a little bit. So I really love what you said about, just about finding something that's fun to do, because I think this is one of the hardest things, or one of these stigmas. And I've talked about this actually in previous live streams, and actually I think with Adrian and Nico. And so Adrian's saying that he agrees with your philosophy, which is awesome. Because I think one of the biggest stigmas we have right now, like in our society, is just that, moving is weightlifting, or it's, it's for some people, not for everybody. And, you don't realize that things like, rock climbing, like that's that's a pretty amazing way to move, surfing. And, just there's so many other ways that you can move that's actually fun, and you just have to find something that works for you. So like, I just really love what you said about that. And I also love what you said about comparing it to being your medicine, because I think that's such a great way to think about it as well. But what I wanted to ask you about is, I know you were talking a little bit about the yin and the yang piece of it. And so one of the things that I find for people that's really difficult is figuring out like what that balance is. So what would you say about, like, if someone wanted to know, like, how do they find the right balance? What would you suggest?
Great question. Wow, I love it. I don't think I've ever been asked that before. That's a great question. I'm really, really enjoying that. So how do people find that balance in movement? I think it starts with analyzing our situation. And I think that's really, we need to evaluate ourselves and be completely honest with ourselves. I think that's something we often are not completely honest with ourselves. We like to tell ourselves that, we're maybe doing a little bit more than we actually are. And, so what we want to do is just be honest with ourselves. So take analysis of your life. What does your daily life look like? When you get up, what do you do? Okay, you go take a shower, brush your teeth, and then you drive to work. You sit at a desk all day, you drive home, and sit and watch TV. If that's you definitely need more movement. And again, if you're in that space and you're constantly stressed out, let's say your job is stressful, you want to get into that parasympathetic nervous system state because you're so sympathetically dominant. So basically the basics of that, in our nervous system, we have two branches. So the sympathetic nervous system is our fight or flight mode. That's the stress response. Cortisol, adrenaline is pumping, high levels of inflammation. So the parasympathetic side is the rest and digest, the relaxation zone. And that's where we want to spend most of our time. So if you feel like you're in a stressed out place, we want to do more of the yin side to get us more into that parasympathetic state. Now, if you're someone who is, looking to gain muscle and you're looking to increase your physical fitness, you're going to want to find a balance of both. But if your goal, it depends on your goal. So if you're trying to lower stress, you're probably going to want to do more of the yin side. But at the end of the day, everybody's balance is going to be different. If I'm a 6'1", 170-pound male with a goal of adding 6 pounds of muscle this summer, my movement is probably going to look different than somebody who's, 5'2", 200-pound female looking to lose 50 pounds or 80 pounds or 20 pounds, whatever the goal is. So recognizing that it's all going to be dependent on, looking at ourselves, saying, what do I want to achieve with my goal? What does my lifestyle look like? And being honest with ourselves, and then finding that balance. And it may take some experimentation, saying, hey, I'm going to go to the gym and lift weights. Cool. That felt really good. I'm going to keep doing that. And 2 times a week seems to be good for me. And when I do 3 times a week, that seems to be a little much. I'm too sore. And then, if I go for a walk for 15 minutes a day, that seems to be good. So I think it's really just about playing around with the parameters. And I always say start small. So don't say, I'm going to go for a 2-hour hike every day if you haven't hiked in 10 years. Go for a 15-minute walk to start. Then maybe after a few weeks, then, it's progressively going up to 20, 30 minutes, and you start implementing things in. But again, keeping it simple and slowly implementing more, I think, is the sustainable approach.
I agree, because I think it's a lot of it's a lifestyle change too. And I think if you try to change too fast, then you just overwhelm yourself and you just set yourself up to fail. So it's, I like that of, if you don't walk regularly, then like start with 15 minutes and see what that feels like. And, even if you feel like you can go longer, maybe you don't, so that you can do it for the long term. There's a saying actually in yoga. I'm going to butcher this quote, but I love it. It's about how you're not practicing for today, you're practicing for tomorrow. So you don't want to and you're practicing for life. So if you're doing something today in your practice that's going to prevent you from practicing tomorrow, then back off. So like check that ego at the door, and just kind of, just back off, which, some people, like it depends on where you are in the spectrum, but if you're kind of like the A-type personality, then I think a lot of the time you need to back off. So
totally. And yeah, one thing that a couple of my friends who are personal trainers that on my quest to add more muscle right now, they reminded me of a very good philosophy that, a lot of that comes down to repetitions and volume. So let's say for pull-ups, let's say that you can do 5 pull-ups. That's your maximum. And then you do 4 sets of that today. You do 4 sets of your max. And now you're sore for a week. So you did 20 pull-ups this week. But what if instead of doing that, you did 3 pull-ups a day? Now you're doing 21 over the course of the week. So that's actually a little bit more volume. And then you're able to do so without, like you said, overburdening yourself. So, there's a bunch of different ways we can dive into this. But I think at the end of the day, like you said, we don't want to push it so far that we're sore for an entire week. It's better to, in my opinion, to do it more often and more consistently to build that up.
I totally agree. So Adrian actually had a great question here. He's got a lot of clients. So Adrian and Nico do a YouTube channel as well. And these guys are like elite athletes. Like these guys are amazing. So, and they do a live stream every Saturday. And I think a lot of their clients and a lot of their followers are wanting to push themselves to their level. And so he's wondering if you have any advice to tell them to just sort of like relax or to sort of, I guess, meet themselves where they are.
Well, I think the most important thing to recognize is that you don't get stronger in the gym. You get stronger when you're recovering. So that's a big thing that I've come to really accept, is that you can go to the gym all day, but you're tearing your muscles apart in the gym. That's really not helping you grow if you're not resting. So you can actually be doing more damage than good. So again, it comes back to that balance and recognizing that the best way to actually increase your performance is to actually rest more. And again, you can rest too much. If you're sleeping 15 hours a day, you're probably sleeping way too much. But if you're only sleeping 4 hours a night, you're not recovering enough. And again, we can get into recovery a little bit later, but the idea is that you can move all you want, but it has to be counterbalanced with the other side of recovery.
I love that. I love that a lot.
I hope that helps.
Yeah, Adrian. So hopefully that helps. Oh, here. Great. He says, great reminder on that. Rest more. You get gains when you recover. Thanks for the reminder.
Cool.
Awesome. All right. No, I think that's really good. So why don't we move over to the next one? So I know the next one is thinking. Mm-hmm. So I'll throw it over to you.
So thinking is something that I think is incredibly overlooked. So most people have tens of thousands of thoughts per day. A lot of people have hundreds of thousands of thoughts per day, because if your mind is going 1,000,000 miles an hour, and that includes while you're sleeping, a lot of times we're kind of in that half awake, half asleep, having thoughts going around. So when it comes to thinking, our thoughts realistically is the dictator of our life, because you and I could be in a car looking at the same scene, and you could be saying, wow, it's a beautiful day. Look at the clouds. Look at the birds are chirping. And I could be like, oh, this sucks. It's too hot. The windows won't roll down. Like, we can be be in the same exact instance, and our thoughts are going to completely shape our reality. So when it comes to thinking, recognizing that, we hear about the word manifestation a lot. And that was something that I kind of thought was just some woo-woo stuff for a little while, until I started recognizing that when I change my thoughts, the actions I'm taking, the people I'm around, the things I'm doing can completely change just by my simple perception of what I'm doing and who I am, who I'm becoming. So most of us have way too much time thinking negative thoughts. We're exposing ourselves to the TV, the news. When you watch the news, it's all negative stories, because negative news sells. And again, it's not to blame them. They're doing what they do, which is get clicks. So they're doing what they're trying to do, is just get as many views as possible. And negative news, stimulates that primal, sympathetic response, which can be addictive. So with the idea of our thoughts, some practices that I like to utilize are things like gratitude practices. So what I've been doing for the past few weeks here is every morning when I wake up, I express 3 things I'm grateful for. And that sets the tone for my entire day. I notice the days I do that versus the days I reach for my phone when I first wake up, my thoughts for the entire day are complete. They're night and day. So if I grab my phone and the first thing I do is get blasted by all this stuff going outside in the world, I feel behind. I'm catching up on all these things that I feel like I've missed over the course of my sleep. and that can completely set things off. So when it comes to thinking, we want to surround ourselves with things that are going to stimulate positive thinking. That could be watching a live stream like Move with Jenn. Maybe you're watching YouTube channels by Move with Jenn. That's going to be more positive input versus watching the news where it's all doom and gloom, negativity. How are you going to react differently when you come across a stressful situation if you're exposing yourself on a regular basis to positive thinking versus negative thinking? So I think the important thing to recognize is that our thoughts really completely, dictate our life, and how we're going to go about life is just the way that we go about our thoughts.
Totally. And it's all about perspective. Like you said, right at the beginning is, we could be looking at two scenes and just seeing experiencing them so differently. And some things that I've heard is just how powerful, I think there's quite a bit of research around it now, is just how powerful our own thoughts are in terms of even just self-talk. So like our brain, for example, is not very smart, but it does listen to everything that you tell it. So if, let's say I, say something like, Jenn, you suck at this, then my brain's going to start looking to find evidence for how I suck at it. And then I will suck at it because, I keep telling myself that, and I keep going through that. And it's just, when you start realizing how powerful your thoughts are and how you, and I'm guilty of this too. Like, I always check my phone first thing in the morning, and I'm with you. I notice that when I do it, it sets my whole day off because you're getting blasted with, whatever it is, but it's typically not that positive, or maybe it is, but maybe it's too overwhelming or whatever. Right. So.
Yeah. And another thing on that note is that made me remember a quote that I like. Two quotes is, one is, the answer to every prayer is always yes. So when we are, talking to ourselves, like you said, instead of saying, I suck at this, or I hate this, or I don't want to be sick, I don't want to be sick, I don't want to be sick. How about saying, I want to be healthy? I'm becoming healthy. I'm becoming healthier every day. And it may feel corny and it may feel weird at first, because like, I'm sick right now. What do you mean? I'm not going to say I'm becoming healthier every day because I'm sick right now. That's not real. That's not true. But eventually, like you said, our brain and our cells are always listening. And there are plenty of studies that we can look on how our thoughts and how our words actually affect everything around us. There's a great scientist by the name of Masaru Emoto who studied the effects of water. And he has had decades of clinical studies showing that when you talk to water, which sounds crazy on the surface, the crystal structure of water changes when we say things like, I love you versus I hate you. The crystal structure of the water crystal, that when you say I hate you, are chaotic, they're broken, they're unstructured. And this is under a microscope. So in the water structure crystals, when you say I love you, are symmetrical, they're together, they're beautiful crystals. So the point is that we want to focus all of our attention on positive thoughts, and not to deny the negative, because the negative exists. Not this, there's a lot of talk about toxic positivity. Acknowledge the negative parts, but when we're trying to move forward, not dwelling on them and really focusing on the positive thoughts. And that leads me to the other quote, which is, move towards your bliss, not away from your stress. So moving towards being healthy, not being not sick.
I love that. I think that's a really interesting way to change that sort of train of thought too, right? Like, I know, just because, you go through different things, and there's so many ways that you can experience it. And, I think it's also important to say that it's, you also don't want to be like, I don't want to say too positive. Like, I think it's okay to also be realistic and also, admit if you're like not feeling great, or, just own negative feelings and those kinds of things. But it's also just like you were talking about at the beginning, just that gratefulness, just, focusing on all the things that we do have instead of all the things we don't. Because sometimes I think we always focus, especially in Western society, we're always focusing on what we don't have, you know, oh, I don't have that, you know, red outfit that I wanted, or I don't have this, you know, this other thing, versus it's like, actually, I have a lot of things. Like I have food in my fridge. I never have to worry about, you know, hunger, for example, or I have a roof over my head, or I feel safe where I live, or, you know, there's just so many things. Even if sometimes when I do my gratitude journal, the only thing that I can think of is the sunshine, but like
Right.
still, you know.
Beautiful. Yeah. And so, you know, that kind of leads me into breathing. So, on the topic of breathing,
Just before we go into breathing, Rob, I just
sure.
want to go into the comments quick because I haven't checked in a bit. So Gain Bros, I see you're on here. So thanks so much for being here. And Jessica, you've been doing amazing. So I really want to give some kudos over to Jessica. I know she's been training with Adrian Nico. She's been coming to my yoga classes, and Jessica is amazing. She's such an honest and thoughtful person, and it's really cool to see the whole YouTube community. So Adrian, I saw that you're always like thinking and sort of praying for Jessica, which I think is so beautiful. So I think that's so cool. The other thing I wanted to say was, I know I missed about baby Lillian, but Adrian, I'm so glad baby Lil, it's so cute. I really hope to see some pictures. I'm going to be bugging you on Instagram later. I also see that Wally Paul Fitness is here, so welcome. And this is awesome. So I'm really glad that you guys are here. And let's jump into breathing. I know Jessica wants to do breathing.
All right, Jessica, here we go. So breathing, this has been something. So I just started taking pretty recently. It's called XPT, Performance Breathing. So it's a certification course. I've spent many hours with the past few weeks, and really, you know, it's made me aware of someone whose art I thought I was very aware of my breath, that I have a lot of tough subconscious patterns of my breathing. You know, a lot of times when I'm walking, I'm breathing through my mouth. So when it comes to breathing, you know, another quote, I'm a big quote guy. So how you breathe is how you live, and how you live is how you breathe. So coming back to that sympathetic versus parasympathetic nervous system, when we're breathing through the nose, that is parasympathetic dominant breathing. That's rest and digest, relaxation, stress relief breathing. We're breathing through the mouth. That is the sympathetic nervous system activation. You think of, if you're running, you're sprinting, what are you doing? You're huffing and puffing through the mouth because you're just trying to get as much oxygen in and as much carbon dioxide out. So when we're thinking about, all right, where am I trying to be right now? Am I trying to do a 1 rep maximum and trying to sprint as hard as I can? If so, maybe mouth breathing makes sense. But 99% of the other time, we want to focus on breathing through our nose. And when you're talking, you know, right now I'm breathing through my mouth because I'm talking. So that, you know, that can actually help too, because, you know, it's kind of getting me, you know, charged up. But most of the time when we're in everyday life, we want to be breathing through our nose. And now breathing through the nose, a lot of us have forward head posture because we're looking at screens all day. So making sure we're in proper alignment with our spine, because when we come forward, it's much easier to breathe through the mouth. And that can often trigger mouth breathing because we're so hunched forward, creating the stress response, and becomes this vicious cycle. So
Interesting.
if we can focus on breathing in through the nose and drawing from the diaphragm, the belly. So if you put a hand on your chest, a hand on your belly, you just start breathing, you know, taking some deeper breaths. Notice your hand on your belly should rise first. If your hand on your chest rises first, that means you have a reverse breathing pattern. So we want to breathe first into our belly, pulling with our diaphragm, you know, not using our neck muscles, not using our chest. Those are all secondary breathing muscles. So we can focus on drawing in through the belly and then the chest. So it's about 2/3 belly, 1/3 chest. So we can just practice that in through the nose, you know, relaxing the jaw, because, you know, a lot of times when I'm forward, again, this is engaging these muscles, so then I'm using these muscles to breathe in through my mouth. So when I'm back here in more of a straight position, it's a lot easier to breathe in through the nose, fill up the belly 2/3, the chest 1/3. And then on this piece here, kind of a little final tip, I'd invite people to lay on the ground, have your feet, you know, kind of your feet on the ground, knees up, and that's a very prone, you know, it's a very good position to practice your belly breathing in. So I just invite everybody to be more aware of their breath. And whenever you feel that stress response coming on, just take a moment, take a few deep breaths in through the nose, filling up the belly. And there's a lot of studies that show just by doing 3 deep intentional belly breaths that you can reduce cortisol, which is the primary stress hormone, by up to 80%.
Wow.
It can come back really quickly if you're in a stressful environment, but even just having a few of those moments a day just to get back to your baseline can make a big difference.
Wow. So I'll be honest, I didn't like, I mean, obviously through yoga, we always breathe through our nose, but I had no idea that when we're breathing through our mouth, that it's actually, it's helping with that stress response, or not helping, but it's amplifying the stress response, which is so interesting. So thanks for sharing. And I think that breath is one of the most interesting things because it's so simple, right? We all breathe, we do it, without really thinking too much about it. And I feel like it's honestly like such a powerful tool, right? Like there's, in yoga, we use pranayama, whether it's square breathing, ujjayi breathing, single nostril breathing, there's just so many. And it's just incredible how once you start sort of recognizing your breathing patterns and you start seeing how you feel, it's so crazy how like powerful and impactful they can be to really help calm you down.
Totally. Yeah. So again, how you breathe is how you live, and how you live is how you breathe. So the more moments we can have breathing in through that nose, nice, calm, full, deep breaths, we're going to have a much better, less stressful life.
Yes, I love that. And actually, so with my brother, I've been doing some breathing techniques with him. Nice. And honestly, the one that he found the easiest and simple for him, and I'll just share with everyone here, is like inhaling. So it's just simple. You inhale through the nose, exhale through the nose, but try to get the exhale a little bit longer than your inhale. Yes. And as he inhales, he says the word positive in his head. And as he exhales, he says the word negative. So like, bringing in light, bringing in love, bringing in positive, and then like letting go of anything that's no longer serving you. So that seems to be one that's really powerful for him. So as Rob said, definitely recommend everybody to give it a try, even here. So like even on this live, just notice your posture, maybe do what Rob said, where you put one hand on your heart, one hand on the belly, and just do a couple breaths and just see how you feel. So
yeah, one final little piece that you tapped onto is that the longer we make our exhale, when our exhale is longer than our inhale, that is also stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's something that looks like you two stumbled onto intuitively, that when you lengthen the exhales, that's a way to get you back into that stress relieving response.
Awesome. Thanks, Rob. This is amazing. So just before we jump over to the next one, I just wanted to give a hi to Eric. So I'm really glad you're here. And I have to ask, Eric, are you eating Frosted Flakes? All right, cool. And then actually Adrian and Nico here are saying I do a lot, or Adrian's saying I do a lot of intense training. However, very slow controlled run is amazing, focusing on the breath. I totally agree, Adrian. So I find actually when you do those sort of longer runs, I actually find it's almost like a meditation, because you can kind of just focus on the run and the breathing. And I don't know, it's really amazing. And Adrian saying, thanks, Rob and Jen. And Wally Paul is saying, have a great day, everyone. Exercise is I'm not sure what you meant there, Paul. Awesome. All right. So amazing. Thanks so much, everyone who's on the line with us. Again, keep the comments coming. If you've got any questions as we're sort of jumping through everything, feel free to post. So we've gone through all of the yang foundations. So I guess now it's time to go over to the yin ones.
Beautiful. So when we're thinking of the yin side, kind of like the other side of the coin, this is where we're focusing on nourishing, recovery, repair. So we'll start with hydration, because I think that hydration is one of the most overlooked tools for optimizing our health. So you think of by weight and by percentage of a cell, percentage of a tissue, a muscle, we're about 98% water. It's crazy. Our brain is majority water. Our muscles are mostly water. Our organs are mostly water. we are water creatures. So, that would lead me to make the connection that probably if we're drinking more high quality water, we're probably going to be healthier people. So a large percentage of our population is chronically dehydrated. And a lot of people kind of have migraines are very common. Chronic headaches are very common. Inflammation, cramping. A lot of these common symptoms people deal with are related to hydration. So like I said earlier about Masaru Emoto's work on studying water, not all water is created equally. So the way, in my opinion, that we can get the highest quality water is to get it as close. Okay, good idea. Is get as close to a natural source as possible. So if you have a spring nearby, a good quality spring, that's ideal. You can go to findaspring.com and you may be able to find a spring near you. So that's a great little tool. Findaspring.com. So spring water, you think of water and water coming down from the mountains, it's moving. There's a lot of energy happening. It's structuring itself as it goes across these stones and across these natural frequencies. We can get into the fact that living beings, emit native electromagnetic frequencies. Myself, this plant, animals, all these type of things are, rocks are native electromagnetic frequencies. Things like this computer, Wi-Fi, cell towers, these are non-native frequencies that are very disruptive. So you think that if water's going through all these pipes, it's being blasted, getting hit with chlorine, with fluoride, with all these chemicals, that's not very close to what nature had in mind. So when we're looking at spring water, it's most likely from a much more natural source. So, and also coming down to glass versus plastic, over time, plastic is going to leak chemicals into this water. So glass is best. Stainless steel is, I think, second best. So I think glass and stainless steel are the two best. I like this stainless steel one because it's big, and I was just driving today, so it's nice to have a big one available. But stainless steel and glass. So we'll start with that. So on that note, hydration, we think of, I like to front load my hydration in the morning. So drink the majority of my water in the earlier end of the day, because that way many people get home from work, they do all these things, and it's 8 p.m. Now they're chugging water, then to go in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. So I like to have, at least 2 glasses of water first thing after I wake up. Scrape your tongue, brush your teeth first, get rid of all the gunk that may have built up while you're sleeping. Chug some water. Drink 2 glasses, do what you got to do. A way to boost your hydration could be adding some high quality salt, not table salt, adding some good sea salt, some Celtic salt, a lot of these things. That's funny. Good comment. So adding things, again, coming back to structuring the water and adding minerals. So, I studied sustainable food and farming in my undergrad, and our soils are completely depleted of minerals like magnesium, one of the biggest deficiencies. So when we add good quality salt, other minerals to our water, that's not only structuring the water to make the crystals, more intact and more cohesive, but it's also adding those minerals that most of us are missing in the diet. So I think it's important to get the highest quality water we can. Me and my friends, we call ourselves water nerds because we think that water is one of the most important things to put in the human body, and we like to get the highest quality. So front loading your water, drinking out of glass, avoiding plastic at all costs, getting spring water when possible, but, spring glass or stainless steel earlier on in the day is best.
So Rob, where do you get your water from?
So we have a spring nearby here. Actually, it's called Simpson Spring. It's actually the oldest spring in the country, which is kind of cool. So that's been around for quite some time. It's a family-owned spring, so that is something we do want to look out for, because Nestle, Poland Spring, a lot of these big companies have bought up a lot of springs near across the country. I think they own like 90% of them now, and they're not doing the most, humane practices that they claim they may be. So finding a local spring that's, smaller, family-owned, I think is best. So that's where I get mine from.
Very cool. Honestly, I never even thought about that. So this is super cool. I'm definitely going to go to findyourspring.com after. I wonder if they have them in Canada as well. So
they probably do. Yeah. Findaspring.com.
Yeah. It's find a spring.
A spring. Yep.
Okay. That's really cool. Interesting. I never really thought about water quality. So this is definitely something I gotta look at a little bit more. So because it's true, right? I mean, we are made up of, I don't know what it is, but a good chunk of us, what is it, 80%, I think is what you said, maybe 80% water,
Even more.
even more, maybe 90. I think it's like 90 something, isn't
It
it?
is. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, we're like full of water. So yeah, you're right. We should be looking, here we're looking at, if anybody takes supplements or vitamins and stuff, you look for like the highest quality supplements or the highest quality thing. I never thought about highest quality water. So love it.
And that, that kind of leads into nutrition if you're ready to dive into that one, because
yeah, just before, I just want to do a shout out to Rolando. So 60-second calisthenics. So I'm so glad you're on. And, and then Jessica here says purified water. So she's saying, so purified water is not the best. Go for spring.
Yeah, so purified water is tricky because there's no real regulations on that. So purified water doesn't really mean much most of the time. So again, a lot of times purified water could mean that they blasted it with chlorine, they blasted it with all these chemicals to make it purified, to kill any of the harmful things, potentially harmful things in there, but that's also killing a lot of the beneficial things in there as well. So for me, spring water is always best. There's a great filter called the Berkey filter, which is, it's a few $100, but it's a, great investment. I think mine costs $350. But I don't really use that often, more for traveling because I have the spring nearby here. So highly recommend spring. There is one called Mountain Valley Spring Water, and I know that they serve it across the country. And that's a good source too. So even if you have to pay for the spring water, I can definitely say it makes a big difference, and it's well worth the investment. If you take your health seriously and you're spending all this money on good food, you're spending all this money exercising, again, water is pretty darn important.
And then tap water, because tap water has, like you were saying, oh my gosh,
everything.
Everything. Yeah, tons of stuff in there. Yeah, interesting.
So just a quick thing on tap water. Now that you got me on this tangent here, so
yeah, go.
Tap water is one of the most sad things I think that we have done to any source of fuel for living beings. And like I said, it's running through metal pipes, oftentimes picking up these heavy metals from these pipes that are getting, eventually, just like plastic, eventually coming off from the pipes into the water. Sometimes there's rust going in there, and a lot of our waterways and public systems are connected. So sometimes you're getting agricultural runoff, you're getting antibiotics, you're getting pharmaceuticals, people flush down the toilet. And even though they're straining some of these things out, you can't necessarily get rid of it all, because you're blasting with electrical frequencies to try to kill all the stuff in there, putting fluoride, putting chlorine, all these type of chemicals. So to me, I look at water as a living entity. And just like, with Masaru Emoto, it's shown that it responds to different emotions, it responds to different words, it responds to different frequencies. So if we're looking at water as a living being, we wouldn't do that to any other living creature. We wouldn't blast it with all these chemicals, blast it with electricity, blast it with all these things, and then run it through metal pipes. It's like basically putting the water in prison, the farthest thing from nature, and torturing it along the way. So tap water, especially for people that use showers a lot, I like my long showers, get a shower filter. Your body absorbs so much water through your skin. So getting a shower filter, I have a filter in my kitchen sink, a shower filter, I have the spring water, a hose filter for my garden. We want to really make sure we're filtering our water, because we absorb it from so many different angles through our skin. If we're feeding our plants water that's low quality, that's the water that's in the plant. Plants, again, are made of mostly water, so we're consuming this low quality water. So there are so many different rabbit holes I could go down on this. So I'll kind of chop it off there, because I could probably go for 3 more hours on water.
No, this is actually so interesting, because I find, honestly, I didn't know any of this. So it's really cool to hear about this, Rob, because honestly, I think actually everybody who's in the chat takes their fitness really seriously. And I would love to know how many of them, think about this when it comes to the water. I mean, I'm guilty here. Everything in here is tap water. So I definitely am going to be rethinking this now. So thanks for that.
Yeah, and another thing too is, again, not everybody has access to these really high quality springs. And like, I was just down in North Carolina for a treat, and North Carolina has some of the best water in the country. They have the most springs in the U.S. They have the most waterfalls, so they just have really high quality water. And my energy was quite a bit higher, just because filters are great, but it's still not the same as getting high quality water.
Sure.
So, and if you don't have the best quality water, like I said, the power of our words, the power of our intentions, people do a prayer before a meal. You're setting an intention. You're giving energy to the water. So even, in the studies, if people that wrote, "I love you, thank you" on their water, I have "be kind" on mine. So just like little stickers, things that increase the vibration of that water can also enhance, its effect on you.
Wow. That's powerful. Very cool. Love it.
So I think we can transition to
Let's do
nutrition.
it. Yeah, let's do it.
So with hydration being, incredibly important, now we look at nutrition. So thank you, Jessica. I love it too. I'm a big water geek. So
we may need to do another one of these just on water.
Just on water, yeah. I'll bring my buddy Eddie. He's studied this quite a bit too. So
cool.
For nutrition, again, as someone who studied sustainable food and farming, and just a little bit more background about myself, I worked with a company doing food inflammation testing. And basically what that was is you take a sample of your blood and you test the blood against the proteins in 132 different foods. And the proteins where people have sensitivities. So what I found after working with this company for almost 3 years and making meal plans based on people's test results was that a lot of people are intolerant, sensitive to foods they eat consistently. Because just like, think of if the only exercise you did was pull-ups. Eventually your elbows are probably going to hurt because all you're doing is this one motion. Maybe your traps are going to hurt, your upper back, your lats are going to hurt. So, if you just keep doing the same thing all the time, eventually it's going to, cause some damage to you. So if you're only eating chicken, rice, and broccoli, I could tell what people are eating most of the time just based on what they're sensitive to, because they're like, "Oh yeah, I'm eating healthy chicken, rice, and broccoli." It's like, well, you're incredibly sensitive to all those things. That's the only thing you're putting into your body. So when it comes to nutrition, we want to focus on a diverse diet as best we can. Now, without getting into any specific type of diet, because I believe that there is no one size fits all for anybody. We are all completely different depending on where you're from in the world. If you're close to the equator, you're probably going to need more carbohydrates because you think of traditionally you had access to food growing all year round, a lot of fruits and vegetables. If you're an Eskimo living in the north, you don't have fresh fruits and vegetables. You're probably going to be more of what we call a polar type, eating more fats and proteins. So recognizing that where we come from with our heritage is probably going to impact the type of foods we eat in terms of macronutrients. Now, that being said, we can change with the seasons. In the winter, I barely eat any carbs at all. I'm Irish and German. So you think in Ireland and Germany, there's not a whole lot of fresh grown veggies going around year round. However, and I barely eat any fruit in the winter. In the summer, recently, spring coming around, I've been craving fruit. I eat a lot more carbohydrates in the summer. So recognizing that, whether you're keto, you're a vegan, you're carnivore, whatever your style is, recognize that that's not something you have to get caught up in forever. You could be keto for, 3 months and that serves you. Once you start to feel that's starting to shift, maybe you want to go vegan. And then after that, maybe you want to go carnivore. Maybe you want to go full swing in one pendulum the other. Totally cool. Whatever works for you. But what it really comes down to is food quality. So organic food, to me, it's not even a question. If you're going to take your health seriously, you need to be eating organic food. Because if you're not, when you go to farms and see the disgusting practices they're doing in non-organic farms, they're pumping these animals with antibiotics. They're pumping them with hormones. All these things that are being transferred to us when we eat that flesh, because it gets trapped in the muscle, it gets trapped in the fat, and then we're consuming that. So antibiotics could be disrupting our own gut health that were intended to, be in the animal. You think of plants are getting sprayed with toxic herbicides that just because they're genetically modified to not be killed by them, they're still holding on to those in their cells, and we're consuming those, causing a lot of, again, gut dysbiosis. So we really want to make sure that we are focusing on organic foods, because basically what organic means, it just means it's clean. It means that there's no chemicals on there, which these chemicals, for a little backstory, I won't get too deep in this, but basically after World War II, There was a lot of Agent Orange, a lot of these other things that were used to kill human beings left over. And they said, well, what do we do with this? We have all these chemicals left over from the war. There's no more war. They found if they sprayed it on food, it would kill all the bugs, kill all the things that they thought were actually harming them. A lot of them were pollinators that were actually helping them, but that's a whole other story. But basically, they use these chemicals that were once used to kill human beings in smaller doses to kill microorganisms that they perceived to be hurting the plants, and then genetically modified the plants to withstand these chemicals. So we are consuming chemicals at a very low dose that was once used to kill human beings. So for me, when it comes down to eating organic and non-organic, it is worth the extra, $1.59 to get the organic version of something.
You don't really want something that's killing you, with the only thing. So here's a question for you. Maybe you know about this, and if you don't, then we can move on from it. But sometimes talking to people about organic versus non-organic, I've heard that the standards around organic are not always equal. So, for example, like I've heard rumors where, you'll have like a farm that's labeled as organic, but they actually don't have organic practices, for example. So like, what do you like? Do you have any insights around that?
Yeah, so that is 100% true. That is a very tough line that now, because people are getting hip to the fact that people buy organic foods because they know they're healthier, a lot of these big companies are creating their own organic certifiers to certify their farm as organic, even if they're not organic, like you said. So in an ideal world, we're either growing our own food or we're getting it from local farmers. And so, kind of just like I said, in the gut health, a lot of these things that intend to kill bacteria, we have more bacteria in our body than we do have human cells. Mm-hmm. So if we're killing bacteria, we're also killing ourselves because there's more of them than us on us and in us. So with that being said, when you were getting local food, we're getting the local microorganisms, we're getting the local bacteria into our body, which is going to help us with our local environment. So one of the biggest travel tips I learned when I was in Asia and going to all these other places was that when you first land in a new place, you want to get something that's a local probiotic. So that could be a good yogurt, that could be getting some raw vegetables, out of the ground with a little bit of dirt on them, assuming that's an organic farm, a high quality farm you trust. But when you go to a new place, you want to get some of those microbes in you because that is helping you to build your immune system, helping you to adapt to this new environment. So to answer your question, the best thing we can do is to, one, grow your own food, which if anybody follows me, I try to make it as easy as I can to show you how easy it is to grow your own food, and also to support local farmers that are doing sustainable practices. And also just on a global scale, you think of a traditional farm. I'll run through this real quick. If someone's going to a farm, they pick it up, they drive it to a processing facility. From the processing facility, they drive it to a store, and all these are in refrigerated trucks. And they get to the store, it's sitting, in the back in a refrigerated aisle. You drive there in your refrigerated car, you pick it up, drive home in your refrigerated car, versus going outside and picking yourself.
Totally.
How much gasoline, how many fossil fuels, how much are we wasting in that process? So that's a whole other rant.
I know. And as you're saying that, so like, this is related and unrelated all at the same time. But like, so I actually have started to buy fish from a local fishery, and I started buying meat from a local butcher. And the fish, I was speaking to them about it, and I was asking them, like why, like just trying to understand why people would shop there versus like just going to, Loblaws or like going to the local grocery store and picking it up. And they were saying that basically, so they go to the terminal every morning to go pick up their fish from when it's caught to when you're getting it on your plate. And like, we're in Toronto, so, you don't have, we don't have oceans near us or anything. So like, just keep that in mind as well. But, from when it's caught to when it's going on your plate, it's like normally like 3 to 5 days. Whereas if you're picking it up at the grocery store, it could be like up to 20 days.
Right.
Up to 20 days.
Right.
So you just think, in terms of freshness, in terms of quality, in terms of, how much bacteria could be on like the fish at that point. So Anyway, just crazy.
Yeah, and again, you think of just growing your own food. This afternoon with some of my friends, we made our own salad with stuff from the garden, and just like that was 30 seconds of being off the ground, which is getting nutrition blasted to it, versus sitting in a truck for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So growing your own food just has so many benefits, which again, we could go do a whole other conversation on just that.
Yeah. And so just quickly, actually, so Rolando was saying that his dad fought in Vietnam as a Marine, and he was exposed to Agent Orange and had health complications as a result, which is crazy. Oh, and actually Rolando was just saying too that he lives in LA and he found a spring nearby in Santa Monica. He used to find a spring map.
Nice. Let's go. That's great.
Very cool. All right, awesome. So I think we dove into nutrition pretty well. Should we go into sleep?
Let's go into. I'll do sleep and stress in one, because I think that those can be tied together, and we've been going over a little bit longer than we intended, but that's okay. So sleep and stress. So stress, again, is the overarching theme of all these things, that we want to focus on reducing stress, and all these things can help reduce stress. So just like how you breathe is how you live, and how you live is how you breathe, how you deal with your stress is also how the quality of your life is going to be. So you think of traditionally our states of stress, fighting a wild animal, hunting, defending ourselves from an attacking village, whatever these things were, they were few and far between. And when they were life or death. Now that stress response is us staring at a screen and seeing someone on Instagram who has something that we don't have, and we're jealous. Now our hormones are going all haywire, or our boss yelling at us, or a teacher telling us to sit down and shut up, are all these things that are not usually life or death situations anymore, but they still trigger the same response in our body. So if we recognize the fact that this incredibly complex system that is, in my opinion, one of the main reasons, if not the main reason why we have made it as far as a species, is now not adapted for our current conditions of life. So, before we needed all these hormones of cortisol, adrenaline to make us survive, allow us to survive so we could hunt and get our next meal. But now when seeing someone on Instagram is stimulating that same fight or flight response, that's going to lead to a whole host of complications like inflammation, high blood pressure, all these type of things that, can get a whole list going. So all these 6 foundation principles we talked about are going to help reduce stress. Now, sleep is the most abundant, free medicine on the planet. It costs you absolutely nothing. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to go out and buy food or do all these things. You just have to lay down and go to sleep, which can be a lot easier said than done coming from someone who's an insomniac for many years, and about 7-8 years ago. So what that leads me to say is, how can we create the optimal sleep environment? So blackout curtains, you want your room to be black, dark. If you're out in nature, again, I like to see how close to nature can we get this. The only light was going to be maybe the moon or the stars. There weren't street lamps. There weren't all these different lights everywhere. There weren't the little blue light there, the little red light there from the TV, all these different things. Like I said earlier with the electromagnetic frequencies, getting all the electronics out of your room. These electromagnetic frequencies are stimulating that sympathetic nervous system. They're causing your body to go in that fight or flight mode, hence why it's difficult to fall asleep. Get your phone, if you're using it as an alarm, turning on airplane mode. Stop, unplug your Wi-Fi. All the signals that are, low-level radiation are going to disrupt your sleep. So getting all sort of technology outside the bedroom. I use my phone as an alarm. So mine's on airplane mode, but it's out of reach of my bed. I have to physically get out of my bed to get my phone. So I can't check it first thing in the morning, or I have to get up. I can't roll over in the middle of the night and check it. And then again, things like I said earlier, drinking a lot of your water early in the day so you don't have to get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Basically just setting yourself up for success with sleep. And it's a lot of little things. I don't have my blue light blocking glasses here, but normally this time of night, if I wasn't doing a video, I'd have my blue light blockers on. When the sun goes down, my blue light blockers come on, because that's, blocking out this blue light that is coming at us and, again, stimulating us for wakiness. So in the daytime, you think of the only light in nature is the sun. So the sun is here. It's time to be awake. It's time to wake up. So light touching our skin anywhere, going into our eyes, is telling us it's time to be awake. So turning down the lights at night, dimming the lights, using alternative lighting, Himalayan salt lamps, Christmas lights, things that are more dull lighting, using blue light blockers, avoiding screens late at night, avoiding stressful things late at night, just setting ourselves up for success and giving ourselves a window to wind down. Mm-hmm. I think that's a really big thing is, for me, I can get away now because I've been doing this for a while with about 20 minutes of wind down before bed. Before, it was legitimately 3 hours I needed to start winding down before bed, which was insanely annoying for a while. And then I got it down to 2 hours, and I slowly kind of chipped away.
Reduced it.
Yeah, and a lot of that comes from I'm not stressing as much during the day, so I don't have as much stress to get down when the time comes. So what all this comes down to is that all these are completely connected. So now I want to come first full circle with all this. So if you're controlling your breath, you can sleep better. You're getting yourself in that parasympathetic state, reducing stress before you go to bed. If you're, thinking good thoughts, you're not worrying about what am I going to do tomorrow? What did I do wrong today while you're trying to fall asleep? Did you move enough during the day so your body is tired so you can fall asleep and be comfortable falling asleep? You're not overly tight. You did enough stretching. You did enough movement to fall asleep comfortably at night. Do you get enough fuel in your body so your body is nourished to go into that deep reparative sleep and have the nutrients to repair yourself at night? Did you hydrate properly in the day? And I could draw comparisons to each one of these like that, like I just compared them all to sleep. So they're all connected. And so that's where, as a holistic lifestyle coach, what I'm sharing with people, it's not one thing. It's everything working together. Mm-hmm. The saying goes, how you do anything is how you do everything. So if you are taking control of your health, you can't just focus on, just your fitness. Because if you're just eating McDonald's, that's only going to last so long before you start feeling like shit. So what this comes down to is start in the morning, start your day off right, whether that's a gratitude practice, whether that's reading a book, whether that's, telling someone you love them, whether that's going for a walk, getting exposed to sunlight as soon as you can, drinking water as soon as you can, moving your body as soon as you can, and just start the day off just on a good note. Do something for you. Don't wake up 15 minutes before you have to run out the door to work. Give yourself an extra little buffer so you're not stressing right off the bat, feeling like you're already behind. And all these little things, we just want to work them all together. And that's really what it comes down to, is just brick by brick, piece by piece, not trying to overwhelm, but just drinking a little bit more quality water, moving a little bit more, thinking a few more positive thoughts, thinking a few less negative thoughts, improving the quality of our sleep, eating even one more new organic food. Let's say you buy half organic, buy one more thing organic you did before. Just slowly sprinkle it in. Don't overwhelm yourself, and just keep it simple.
Amazing. That was so epic, Rob. All of this, you provided so much information. And I think this is so helpful. Game Bros says to live in LA, use those benefits. All right. So I'll quickly just open it up to anyone who's on the live. If you have any questions for Rob before we close it out. So I know Rob provided tons of info. I know I learned so much from the session. I had no idea about the quality of water. And it's so true about just how all of these things kind of interconnect. And I think the longer you kind of are in your sort of healthy lifestyle and you keep kind of, the longer you do it, you slowly chip away. And just, if I look at where my life was even 10 years ago and where it is now, it's changed like night and day. And it's just all those little steps, because the longer you get into it, they don't feel like crazy. It doesn't feel like a crazy change. So Rolando here says, nice brick by brick advice. Thanks so much. All right, awesome. So I think we'll probably close. Jessica here says, whoa, Rob, the lifestyle is really admirable. I'm working towards it every day.
Keep going, Jessica. Day by day. That's all it is. One step at a time. Love that.
And I think that is the most important piece of it all, right? Is don't feel like you've got to make all of these changes today. It's, just little by little step by little step. And, over time, you'll hopefully be like Rob and be able to have a 20-minute wind down. All right, awesome. Cool. So I think we'll close it out here. Rob, thanks so much. This is amazing. I'm so happy we did this. I know we've been planning this for a while, and I'm really glad that you could be on the live. And just thanks for sharing with everybody all of your wisdom and all of your knowledge. It was just so insightful and really awesome to hear about this. So thanks again for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and thank you everybody who is showing up here. Because that's the first step, is just showing up. Showing up and being open to making a change. So I hope that something I said, whether it was one thing I said, or two things I said, or three things I said, that you're going to utilize and take action on. And like I said in the beginning, like, I'm more than happy to chat with anybody here, answer any questions. Because I know sometimes we don't like to ask questions on a public forum. Sometimes we want that more personalized approach. So feel free to shoot me a message on Instagram. It's Whole Health Connections, all one word, and you can feel free to reach out. And let me eat this broccoli esteemed. So yes, yeah, feel free to reach out. Any questions, I'm here to support, and I appreciate you all being here. And thank you, Jen, again for having me.
Yeah, of course. I'm so glad you came. And for everybody, again, thanks so much for being here. I just posted his Instagram link in the chat. So if you guys do want to reach out to him there. And thanks so much for being here. And I hope everyone has an amazing Friday, or if you're watching the replay, whatever day it is for you, I hope you have an amazing rest of that. And till next time, I'll see you guys later.
Have the best weekend ever. See y'all soon.
Bye, everyone.